Okay, so hi everyone. My name's Sereena Noor, aka Crazy Goddess, as you know. Some of you know, actually, I should say. And I'm here with Dr. Kevin Brown. He is the chair of the Jamaican Diaspora UK and the UK North representative of Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. For those who haven't heard of the Jamaican Diaspora before, I will be allowing Kevin to give us an insight into what that is and how that benefits Caribbean people in the UK. So I've invited Dr. Kevin Brown on today to have a chat with me. We're going to be talking about some serious topics. However, in a casual way, you know, so we're just literally having a conversation about our position as British Black Caribbean people and how we can bridge the gap between us and Jamaica. Basically, therefore, I thought it would be really nice to chat with Dr. Kevin Brown today. So I myself could gain some more insight and get a clearer picture on my, my goals, where I'm at in life, and also so that you guys can do the same. There's a lot of conversations going on at the moment in terms of, you know, us of the Black British Caribbean diaspora forming our identity in the UK. Who are we within that circumstance? At the moment, it's a circumstance. Who are we and what should we be doing with that? I mean, we've been in the UK for 3 generations, I think. Yeah, we're like as in the adults. And there's not really much discussion around what we're supposed to do with that. So yeah, Dr. Kevin, would you like to tell us who you are and what the diaspora, the Jamaican UK diaspora, is about?
Certainly. Well, first of all, thank you, Sereena, for having me on your show, and for giving me this opportunity to talk about the Jamaica diaspora, because I think it's important to sort of raise awareness around the Jamaica diaspora and to discuss some of the issues that you mentioned in your introduction. So as you said, I'm the chairman for the Jamaica Diaspora UK. It's a national organization that was established in 2005. And it was established in order to allow the Jamaican government to have a more effective relationship with Jamaicans who live overseas. And so there are replica organizations also in America and in Canada as well. And those are the 3 sort of main countries that the government was trying to engage with at the time, because they also have the largest populations of Jamaicans outside of Jamaica. So the Jamaica Diaspora UK as an organization has been around for some time. In fact, I joined as a member of the youth arm all the way back in 2006. I've been involved for quite some time now, and eventually I became the chair over a year ago. So, it's been a journey. It's an important organization because we essentially are here to protect the interests of Jamaicans living in the United Kingdom, but also to assist Jamaica in nation building. And when I say Jamaicans or the Jamaican diaspora, I'm not just referring to people who were born in Jamaica. It also includes 2nd, 3rd, and even 4th generation who are born overseas, but to Jamaican parents. So they have that Jamaican heritage, right? So, as you know, in the UK, we have mixed heritage or mixed race people. They may have one parent who's Jamaican, so they also are part of the diaspora. So it's important to make that distinction, that when I say Jamaican diaspora, it includes Jamaicans who are born here in the UK who sometimes describe themselves as Black British, or mixed heritage. We divide the UK into 9 regions. And each region has a regional coordinator, well, two regional coordinators, because we try to ensure that we're sort of a grassroots organization. And the 9 regions include Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Northern England, the East Midlands, the West Midlands, um, the London, the Southwest, and the east of the UK. So we do try and make sure that we have representatives across the UK that are in touch with Jamaican communities. Most Jamaican communities are in London. London has the largest population of Jamaican heritage people, followed by Birmingham. And then you have pockets of Jamaicans in places like Bristol, Nottingham, Manchester. You have Jamaicans who live up north as well in Yorkshire, and a few in Scotland and even in Northern Ireland as well. Jamaicans are everywhere globally, so it's not strange to find them in across spread out across the UK. The other hat that I wear is as the UK North representative on the Global Jamaica Diaspora Council. Now that's a separate body that is hosted by the Jamaican Ministry for Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and that body is constituted by 28 members, and as it says, global. So it includes representatives from the diaspora across the globe. So you have Jamaicans on that council from who live in China. You have representatives from South America, Africa, the Pacific, and of course the more common countries like Canada, UK, and United States. And so I'm the UK North representative on that council. There's a UK South representative who is Nathaniel Peat. So that, and I should say that that council is a more like a consultative body for the government to sort of gain sort of an understanding of issues that affect the diaspora, but also to tell us what their plans are as well. And this is sort of underpinned by what the Jamaica Diaspora policy. So the government has developed a national diaspora policy. It's currently going through Parliament right now, the Jamaican Parliament, for ratification.
That's absolutely awesome. And so the Jamaican Diaspora UK, which you are the chair of, is that a registered organisation or is that an independent body?
Yes. So, well, I would say it's an independent body insofar as it's not linked directly to the government. It's not a government. It's not a Jamaica government institution. It's based in the UK, developed by Jamaicans who live here. We are registered. So we're registered. We're incorporated company, limited by guarantee, and we're currently in the process of applying for charity status. So that's where we are at the moment. Yeah. But prior to being incorporated, which was only done in I think 3 years ago, we were just a community group.
Okay, that's absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for creating these platforms for us, the independent and actually the side of things that's getting pushed through Parliament to become recognised. Thank you so much. We're deeply grateful for that. So how is it that we can benefit? What is it that the services that you provide, if I'm using the right term by saying services?
Yeah, well, I mean, we strive to be more like an umbrella organization because we recognize that there are already in existence several Jamaican-led or Jamaican diaspora-led community organizations, local to various communities. So I'm sure in places like Birmingham, for example, there are already Caribbean organizations there, Jamaican-led organizations there. And so we act more like an umbrella organization in terms of bringing all these groups together. And so our focus is more on looking at policy, government policy. So for example, immigration policy would be something that we'd be looking at and commenting on. Other issues as well would include how to access services from the Jamaican government. You
Okay.
know, there and this could include a whole range of issues. So, for example, there are many people in Jamaica, sorry, many people here rather, in the UK who would like to give to Jamaica, you know, where the diaspora tends to be philanthropic. And so we look at government policy, Jamaica government policy, in terms of making that as easy as possible, you know, and just making sure that no one's facing any obstacles to giving to Jamaica. And also they're aware of how to do that. We also look at issues across the range, really. So we look at issues as it relates to business, and so that includes helping Jamaicans to do business in the UK. You know, whether acting as a body that can point them in the right direction in terms of who to go to get better support, or also giving them the opportunity to meet other Jamaican businessmen and women who they can speak to and seek advice from. But we also look at supporting and encouraging members of the diaspora in the UK to invest in Jamaica and to look at business opportunities in Jamaica. We work with JAMPRO, for example, which is the government body that's responsible for promoting Jamaica and attracting investment in the country. And they have an office in the Jamaica High Commission in London. So we look at that issues around that as well. You know, and you know, we also look at issues around education, religion. As you know, a big part of the Jamaican diaspora is religion. You know, it's a big sort of Christian community. So we do make sure that we are supporting faith initiatives and faith leaders as well. And we cover a wide spectrum of sociocultural activities. A big thing for us now is also youth engagement. You know, how do we engage young Jamaicans or Jamaican heritage people in the UK? That's a big challenge for us, you know, because, you know, you had the winners generation who came in the 40s and 50s, and now we have Jamaican heritage people who are born here, younger people who have a different perspective on Jamaica, and it's just how do we get them to appreciate their Jamaican heritage, to join organizations like the diaspora. And I should say that people can join. You can become a member. We do accept membership as individuals, you know, and how do you know, because we're always, for me, I'm very, you know, aware that we need to always have a succession plan in place. And so attracting younger people to become the new leaders in the future is important. So that continues to be a big challenge for us, and in terms of attracting young people and making sure that we have programs in place that allows them to sort of become aware of their Jamaican culture. One of the things that we're looking at, for example, is an exchange program that would allow you know, young people to travel to Jamaica and have a taste
What age group when you're saying young people, what's the age group that you're talking about?
That's a good question. I would say notionally between 18 to 35, notionally, you know. I guess if I was sort of following the strict United Nations definition of a youth, so that's sort of age range, and that's you know, so yeah, so we're always looking for younger people, and youth engagement is something that we are quite keen on sort of promoting as well. So we have a website, Jamaican Diaspora UK.org. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so if you can find us on social media as well.
Okay. So what as the Jamaican diaspora thought about, how the current situation with the coronavirus and the COVID-19, how that's affecting Black British Jamaicans, however we want to be called, and Jamaicans, how that's affecting us now? Are you guys putting anything into place, or has this been a conversation? How that's affecting us and what we can do or should be doing?
Yeah, well, health is a big concern for us, and in fact, it's one of our key priorities right now as an organization. And so the first thing we did when it became clear that people of African heritage, Black people, Caribbean people, and also Asians and other minorities were being disproportionately affected by COVID-19 is that we started to raise concerns, within this sort of institutional leadership landscape across the UK. One of the things that we did was that we participated in the Public Health England review that was led by Professor Kevin Fenton, who happens to be of Jamaican heritage. And so we made a submission. It was a joint submission between Jamaica Diaspora UK and Friends of the Caribbean, where we did a focus group speaking to Black and Asian minority healthcare workers. Our focus was on healthcare workers. And so we captured the findings from that focus group, and we also made several recommendations, and we officially submitted that to the Public Health England review. Subsequent to that submission, the first report came out, which was a disappointing report that came out from the Public Health England, which was essentially just a report with lots of statistics and data, but there were no recommendations, which is what we were really interested to see. But even worse, the first report completely ignored the thousands of submissions made by community organizations across the country, including ours. Subsequent to that, the government then decided they were going to release a second report, and this one would have the submissions from community groups, in addition to recommendations. So now we have that report, and within that report there are several recommendations. It again, it reinforces also in its findings some of the reasons why Black communities, the Jamaican diaspora communities, were more vulnerable to COVID-19, and it included, the fact that we have certain pervasive comorbidities, so including diabetes, hypertension, and so on, and then also it also pointed to long-standing health inequalities, and structural racism as well. So we're now looking forward to the next step, which is for the government to outline its action plans to enable these recommendations to come into play in the short term.
So excuse me, but how is institutional racism going to make Black people more vulnerable to COVID-19? I mean, coronavirus. I mean,
right.
Yeah, sorry.
Right. So the when we talk about institutional racism, which it cuts across a whole range of sectors, but in specific to the health sector, it's at various levels. So there's issues around what you experience as a patient, but there's also issues around what the staff experience, Black, Asian, minority staff. Specific to patients, what we're trying to highlight to the health service in terms of inequalities is that there are certain illnesses that disproportionately affect Black people. So, for example, 1 in 4 Black men will get prostate cancer. For white men, it's 1 in 8. Right? When we get prostate cancer, it's more aggressive. Right? So it means that you need culturally competent or culturally sensitive approaches to prostate cancer as it relates to Black men, because then also another example is diabetes. Diabetes is more widespread in Black and Asian communities, right? Sickle cell is something that again is unique to Black and Asian people. So what we're saying is that there are disparities there, and we would want the government or the health service to ensure that the policies that they're creating around certain illnesses highlight and recognize that we need to be aware of certain illnesses that are more specific to Black communities. It's the same issue that arose around Black health workers, who I'm sure, it was widely reported, were being disproportionately affected by COVID-19. We saw doctors, nurses, and
Yeah,
social
they're
care
the essential workers,
workers.
aren't they? So
Mm.
they're kind of out on the field. They're like front
Yeah.
line. If it was a war, they would be like the frontline soldiers. So
Well, I mean, exactly, because there are a lot of there are a lot of Jamaicans working in the NHS, and there are a lot of Black Asian, I think, minorities working in the NHS, and
it makes
so
us more
now,
small in that respect,
oh
as,
yes,
as
it
well as
makes,
the fact that we are more prone to illnesses that white people are not, like diabetes, as you said, and sickle cell. So currently, I'm seeing that a lot of people are concerned because the government are saying that, Black people will be given the vaccine first. Um, Now, what do you say about that?
well, my own personal opinion. In fact, before I answer that, I should say that one of the things that we've launched is a series of health awareness webinars on social media, so on YouTube and Facebook. And in the first webinar that we had, which was on Monday, that very question came up. I think people are concerned around vaccines. My own sort of personal opinion is that we've seen the use of vaccines over decades now, in terms of helping to eradicate some really serious illnesses. But also at the same time, we know that it takes years to develop vaccines that are safe, if you could ever say that they're, if anything's 100% safe. But in terms of relative safety, it takes several years to develop vaccines. But what appears to be happening here in terms of COVID-19 is a sort of fast track approach.
Yeah.
Where we're now being told that we should have a vaccine in months rather than years. And I think people are now concerned that the pace at which these vaccines are being developed means that people are concerned around how safe they will be for humans to consume. And so I think that's the problem, because the logic that the logic seems rational, that you would want to give the vaccine to groups that seem more vulnerable to COVID-19, and the statistics seem to show that Black people are more vulnerable to COVID-19.
Which we're agreeing to by saying that we have an extra illness, which is sickle cell, and we're more prone to having diabetes, which we're kind of to by making those statements.
Yeah, yes. So I think the logic, no one would argue the logic that you'd want to give a vaccine to more vulnerable communities. I think the concern is how safe is the vaccine. And yes,
yeah.
And by the way, this coincides with a growing level of global skepticism around vaccines in general.
Anyway.
So, so yes.
Yes, my children are vaccine free. I'm not interested in vaccines, and I won't be taking any coronavirus vaccine. For many reasons, conspiracy theory reasons, factual scientific reasons, intuition reasons, on all levels. For me, it's a no-go.
Okay.
However, it's kind of brought to the surface that Black people living in the UK are vulnerable on many levels. However, just for this, I'd like to kind of keep it to us being the Black British Jamaican or Jamaicans, how vulnerable we are. And this is what's drawn me to having this conversation with you today, because it seems as though living in a predominantly white country, we are vulnerable to a point that we don't actually kind of recognize and are fully aware of. Does the Jamaican Diaspora UK see it that way as well? Can you just talk about that for a bit? Like, are we vulnerable as a body, who have kind of looked into this topic thoroughly? Are we vulnerable? living in a majority white country, and even more so now with this whole coronavirus situation?
Yeah, I think the statistics show that we are more prone, we are being disproportionately affected by COVID-19. And what's even more interesting is that it's the same for African Americans. Africa, the same statistical trends are there. African Americans are more disproportionately affected by COVID-19, and it's the same situation that's occurred in the United Kingdom. So it does point to the challenge you face as people living outside of your home countries, and residing in other countries such as the UK and America, where you have certain vulnerabilities that occur because of that. I think there are other elements to this as well, because it's not just health where you find these inequalities. If you look at all the social indicators as it relates to Black people in Britain, there are some serious concerns. If you look at education, for example, African Caribbean boys specifically, have been underattained in terms of GCSE O-level results for decades. And, and that's something that we still need to work on. If you look at, unemployment is still disproportionately high amongst Black communities in the UK. Home ownership is also low. 45% of African Caribbean people still live in social housing that they rent. So there are a huge range of social indicators there that are troubling. We're still more likely to be stopped and searched relative to other groups. David Lamb report points to huge disparities in our experience when it comes on to the justice system, right? And so these inequalities have been well documented for decades, and so we have some serious challenges in terms of overcoming them. But the struggle continues. But what I would say is that we also need to focus on what we can do as a community.
Yeah.
And so as it relates to health, for example, our approach in terms of Jamaica Diaspora UK is, as I said to you, we're putting on a range of health webinars, and we're using members of the diaspora who are health experts to speak on all the major illnesses that affect us, right? So over the next 10 months, we will be having a range of webinars where experts in diabetes will come and talk about what is diabetes, how to treat it, and not just looking at pharmaceutical treatments, but alternatives options as well.
Yeah.
We will be looking at health conditions that we don't talk about. For example, our eyes. A lot of Black people struggle with glaucoma, cataracts. But oftentimes that's overshadowed by diabetes and so on. So we want to touch on all the illnesses, not just the ones that make it in the mainstream media, but all the other ones that we often perhaps overlook as well. Hypertension is a big problem, and that's why stroke is a big problem in the Black community. A lot of Black people suffer from stroke or die from it, and so on. So that's health. In terms of education, my opinion is that we need to bring back the Saturday school. We had a strong culture of Saturday schools that served us well, which allowed Black boys and girls to supplement their mainstream education with extra tuition on a Saturday. But also, what was key to these Saturday schools is that most of them offered African history lessons, right? African history that is not taught in mainstream schools. And even though I think that African history should be taught in mainstream schools, because quite frankly, Black history is British history. Until that happens, we should be bringing back our Saturday schools. A lot of Saturday schools no longer exist. For one reason or the other, we need to bring them back. And this hopefully will also help with improving the attainment of Black boys and girls. When it comes on to entrepreneurship and business, we need to do more around that. In my opinion, there's nothing that says that Black people can't be entrepreneurial. I've met a lot of Jamaicans in the UK, who are successful businessmen and women. So I know that we can be good business people, right? It's not, but we need to get out of this mindset, which was drilled down even into me from my parents, where your parents, all your parents were telling you is go to school, get a good education, and then get a job, work for somebody else. I think we now need to move beyond that and be teaching financial education, in terms of understanding the importance of assets rather than cash, and also building businesses. Is a key element as well. The other thing that we should be doing as a community is getting politically engaged.
Yeah.
Those who are politically inclined need to now take their politics out of the barbershops and and join a political party, become a candidate. Take the next step. We have a poor culture of communicating with our political representatives. We need to now learn to write to our councillors, write to our MPs when we have a problem. We have this strong.
Just when we have a problem, just to get an update, what's going on.
Absolutely. So from my perspective, there's a lot that the community can do. That's not to say that we should absolve the government of their own responsibility in terms of ensuring that this is a country of equal opportunities. Of course, we should keep that pressure on. But there are also things that we as a community now should say, okay, what can we do for ourselves? And I just gave you a whole list of things that we really need to focus on.
Basically, for us to, if we admit that we're kind of vulnerable living in a predominantly white country, and doing a risk assessment and planning around that, you're suggesting is bring back Saturday schools, get involved in the politics, the country's political stuff there, what's going on in politics, and be
and health as well.
Fully aware of what's going on with in the health department in regards to our personal health as in Black people.
Absolutely, because here's the thing, Sereena. Could it be that our food is killing us? Is a question I often ask. If you look at the Jamaican diet, is that why we are more vulnerable or susceptible to diabetes? In terms of its high salt content. We like food with taste, which means that we apply these seasonings. Some of the seasonings have high salt content. We know that salt is a contributor to hypertension. Hypertension is a big problem in the Black community. We live in a country where most of us drive, and we go to offices where we're sitting down. So the Caribbean diet that we are traditionally used to and love is very high on carbohydrates, right? But then great, that if you're exercising and you're active, fine. But if you're not, then that diet, that high carbohydrate diet, we like rice, we like our yam and banana and stuff, and in this case, green banana, and so on, so-called hard food as we call it. These are things that, if you're not exercising, could have a negative impact. So we need to look at our diet. We need to start asking ourselves serious questions around, are we getting enough exercise? We know that to prevent diabetes, you definitely need to do more exercise, eat more fruits. So, it's a root and branch assessment that we need to do. And maybe we might have to look at how we even, as I said, we eat, as a Jamaican heritage.
I educate people on the benefits of drinking alkaline water, and I run a company where I supply 9.5 water. So that's me kind of doing my part to reduce the acidicity, in the body's pH balance, and being able to monitor it. That's what I do personally. I'm a singer as well, and I also run an organisation called the Essential Woman CIC, which is basically aimed around ending violence for women and girls.
There you go. I mean, and you're pointing to one of the things that we need to adopt as a community, which is a portfolio career. Don't just do one thing, do multiple things, multiple streams of income. So, those are things now that we need to continue to promote. And I'm really pleased to hear of the many things you're involved in.
Yeah, and I love it because it kind of helps me to attend to all angles of myself, you know, my entrepreneurial and
Mm.
my creative talents as well, and my you know, need to help people and be present for others, share my own experience, my own life experiences. So you spoke about, you know, education and you know, not always, us Black people not always pushing our children to go the academic route and look more towards entrepreneurships. So whether that means that you need to go, you know, and get an education in that particular field to be thriving in within that entrepreneurial career, that's another issue. However, people, I don't think people realize that you can actually invest. You don't have to invest in this country. Therefore, what I would like to ask is, how can we invest in Jamaica without our land, having a house there? Because a lot of us are broken away from Jamaica in terms of our families not keeping that connection. So I'd like you to educate us a bit on how we can kind of recreate that bond without having the usual things that seem to be necessary, like land, etc., or a family network.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, first of all, I encourage everyone to look at investing in Jamaica, or the Caribbean, or by extension, the continent of Africa, because there are opportunities there, you know, and there are people who are not as closely connected to those countries as we are, who are going there to invest. You know, Jamaica presents lots of opportunities, you know, and we should be now looking at how we can get involved. There's a growing property um, uh, portfolio in Jamaica. You know, there are lots of people who, for example, are now making you know, decent returns, at least before COVID-19, in areas such as Airbnb, you know, where people were buying properties in Jamaica and putting them on Airbnb, um, and getting and getting decent returns. Um, there are also other areas around agriculture. The government of Jamaica, for example, is quite keen for people to get involved in agriculture. You know, there's this whole mantra, especially since COVID-19, around getting Jamaicans to grow what they eat. So there are opportunities there, and the government has various institutions that are there to help and give you information. I spoke about Jam Pro recently. So if anyone Googles Jam Pro, you know, it should come up, and that's a body that's there to tell you what you can do to invest in Jamaica. Take, for example, castor oil, you know, which people use as a hair product. You know, there are opportunities there for people to invest in castor oil. You know, whether it is farming it or producing it, you know, adding value to castor oil and exporting it. There's also opportunities in terms of um, what I would say areas that are gaps, things that we currently offer in the UK, that is still not there in Jamaica. You know, so if there are any if there are areas, that business areas that you are experiencing here in the UK, then I would suggest that you should have a look and say, well, hang on, is there a gap in the market in Jamaica where I could introduce this idea in you know in Jamaica? You know, so I think you know, so look at the UK, look at the businesses here, and say, well, you know, is there something here that I'm interested in, but perhaps the UK market is saturated, right? But you could then, you know, look at Jamaica and say, there's a gap, you know, and so that's what I would propose. Clearly, the industries that are quite strong in Jamaica are the tourism industry, um, but there's also a strong financial services industry as well. You know, and you know, in terms of tourism, look, there's still more gaps there, I believe, especially around heritage tourism. You know, Trench Town, for example, which is where Bob Marley used to live. You know, the residents of Trench Town have now sort of turned their houses into sort of Airbnb properties as well. They have tours that they do there. I mean, Trench Town is, for all intents and purposes, an inner city community in urban Kingston in Jamaica. But they have been capitalizing on market opportunities as well. So so yeah, I'd encourage people to invest, you know, and you've got a whole sort of medicinal cannabis industry as well that is you know also taking off in the country as well. So I'd
Medicine,
encourage,
cannabis to take where to trade within Jamaica or within the Caribbean.
well, yeah, I mean, I think Jamaica is kind of taking baby steps towards in terms of the sort of cannabis industry. So you know, it took them a long time to legalize it, which they have done now.
Okay.
Well, legalize it within a framework. So it's still only in terms of nutraceutical, pharmaceutical products. You know, and the whole idea there is that you can now get a license to offer those products. You know, so to the people who, you know, right across the supply chain who grow it and then add value by creating these cannabis nutraceutical or
Around
medicinal.
the world or just within the Caribbean?
Well, in terms of exporting, well, in terms of exporting their products, I think that's still being developed and worked on. You know, but it's certainly in terms of going to Jamaica and creating that business opportunity, that's possible.
Okay, okay. One of the girls was saying that she's been to Jamaica a few times. However, she wants to spend probably about 6 months in Jamaica just to see what it's like to kind of stay there and if she can start building up a proper friendship network, etc. And, you know, maybe look at building something as a career. But because in England she's got a house, children and commitments, she doesn't want to just kind of pick up herself and just go. So how would you advise that, you know, or what opportunities are available for someone in that kind of situation?
Well, there are lots of opportunities. Well, the first thing to say is that there are a few people I've met who've done what she's done, you know, so it can be done. And
Get up and
one
go.
of yeah, I mean, you know, clearly, of course, you'd want to have you know, a rough idea of how you'd maintain yourself, you know, in terms of income. So, you know, as I said, do lots of research before you do go. But it is possible. You know, I've spoken to people who've done it. You know, even if they haven't stayed there permanently, but at least they stayed there for an extended time. And remember, now we're now living in a global world with better or you know, much improved internet connection. So there are these things now that are being called staycations, where people are going to countries for extended stays and still sort of doing work via the internet. So, for example, I remember I met someone in Jamaica, and they were working, you know, doing jobs online, you know, in Jamaica, and that's how they made a living, you know. So they'd go to these sites that offered work online, where you could do various jobs for different companies from your home. So you know, you can actually live in Jamaica and work online for companies outside of Jamaica. You know, I've seen people do that as well. But yeah, I'd recommend you do research, because you know, you want to make sure that you choose where you live carefully. You know, Jamaica is great to live, but it's not perfect, and you know, they have, you know, crime and so on, like everywhere else in the world. So you want to make sure you choose where to live and try and understand the culture as best as you can. If you have any relatives, that might help, but it's not always a guarantee. So, you know, there's also a handbook, a safety handbook that was published by the Jamaican government for people who would like to return to live in the country. I think that should be available online from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, or the Ministry of National Security, the Jamaica ministries. So I think that's something you can Google, or I can send to you as well, Sereena. And that has lots of information about how to keep yourself safe while living in Jamaica as well.
Also
The other thing,
in the description when I put it up.
yes, and also the other thing to say is that if you have Jamaican heritage, then why not claim your Jamaican passport? You
Anyway,
know, if you yes, because that will open a whole raft of opportunities for you because you're a Jamaican citizen. You know, when you have a passport, and you have a tax registration number or TRN. Those two things, essentially mean that you can access anything that a normal Jamaican can. And to qualify, all you need is a parent or parents. So who are of Jamaican heritage. So if you're born in the UK and you have a parent who was born in Jamaica, then you can qualify for citizenship by descent. It's called.
then your grandma or granddad can enter, as long as you can trace back the lineage.
As long as exactly, yes. So they will ask for example, the birth certificate of your parents as proof and so on. So you will need to make sure you have the proof to qualify. But as I said, once you become a citizen, you can then apply for a passport, and I'd encourage more Jamaican heritage people who are born in the UK to get their Jamaican citizenship. You never know under what circumstances you'll need it, but it's useful to have.
Talking about dual citizenship.
Dual citizenship is what I'm talking about. Yes. And as far as I'm aware, you can have dual citizenship, between Jamaica and the UK. So,
to the Jamaican consulate and sorting that out. I heard that that's a really smooth process, really, from you can kind of trace back your lineage, as we said.
Yes, I mean, in terms of genealogy, so for example, that's another element of it, right? So there are some people who might like perhaps want to trace their roots all the way back, to when the Atlantic slave trade, and perhaps even as far back as their African ancestry. What the Jamaican government provides through the Registrar General's Department is a genealogy service where, for a fee, they will help you to search for your ancestors. So you can create a family tree, if you like, and that service is there. There are people here in the UK who offer that service, but you can also ask the Jamaican government to assist you.
That way, it's our people. That's so vulnerable. So safe. No, staycation.
Yes, staycations are becoming popular. As I said, if you have a job that will allow you to work online, people are going to Jamaica and basically working from there.
Yeah. Get your citizenship. Genealogy.
Yeah. Getting a citizenship, I think, is important. Join an organization like Jamaica Diaspora UK would be useful because we open you up to a network. So if you join the organization, you become part of a wider diaspora community and a network. And we have great links with the Jamaica High Commission in London, the Jamaican government, and so we will be able to assist you in terms of pointing you in the direction that you need to travel with respect to getting information.
That people who are going back to Jamaica, basically they're giving up their life in England and going back to Jamaica, they actually get a discount on their barrels and stuff.
Yes, so so the government does try to offer some incentives on people who want to return, returning residents as they're called. Yes, there are some incentives and discounts to be had if you can prove that you are going back there for permanent or lengthy, rather lengthy stay, and you qualify for return residents classification. Then there are discounts in terms of importing a motor vehicle, and generally the general importation of any sort of household products that you'd like to return to Jamaica with. That's something that you can get information on from the government website. I think there's Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, or PICA as it's called, that their website should have more information on that as well.
PICA.
Yes. Passport, Immigration, Citizenship Agency.
Okay.
That's a government agency in Jamaica, and that more information should be available from that body as well. You can also ring up the Jamaica High Commission in London. They have a website, and just tell them that you'd like to return home and you'd like more information. And I'm sure they'll be more than happy to give you that information to make sure that it happens. Look, a lot of Jamaicans have returned home. There are a lot of Jamaicans who came here in the so-called Windrush era, the 40s, 50s, and so on, who gone home and are living happy lives in the sunshine. My grandparents are an example. My grandparents came here. My grandfather came in the 1950s, followed by my grandmother. They returned home permanently in 1995 and lived out their, elderly days in the sunshine. I've lost both of them now, but at least I'm glad that they had that opportunity. And, they didn't have any issues living in Jamaica, So, as I said, the country's not perfect like everywhere else. But if you go back and you're willing to integrate, then you should be just fine. And there are some nice places there to live, some nice homes.
Can see it on your face. It's like there's some nice places there to live.
Absolutely.
You know what, Kevin? Sorry, Dr. Kevin. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. I think we've put in as much as we can. We've put in as much as we can. And if anybody wants to ask any more questions, please, you can comment in the comment box. Dr. Kevin, will you give me your email address or something if people want to comment?
Yeah, I can share that with you in terms of my email for my organization. Yeah.
That's cool. And so thank you so much for chatting with me today. And I'm sending love and light to everybody and peace and tranquility. Thank you for sharing your listening with us, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. Take care.